Today, what we're going to be covering is batch document jobs with DocumentsCorePack, related to some of the options, some of the best practices, and performance-wise, what you can do to kind of up your performance. Um, when we're talking about bulk document jobs, basically, what are we talking about? It's basically creating and processing many documents at one time. It's pretty obvious what that is. Most of y'all kind of know what that is, but some examples would be like daily service reports or monthly or annual invoices, personalized Christmas greetings, things of that nature. Um, just to create just a lot of documents at one time and either do post processing, etc. on those. So some of the questions that we need to answer as we're doing this is like, how fast do I require the jobs to be accomplished? How quickly can I get that done? And also, a lot of times, the one of the biggest questions is, how is this going to affect my users? We're talking like Dynamics 365 usability, and then and avoiding processing bottlenecks, right? Because you don't want to be doing this and have to slow the whole system down to where your users can't use it. So those are some of the questions we're going to try to be answering today. And a couple of the things that DocumentsCorePack has as batch options that you can do is you can do batches via the DocumentsCorePack dialog, through workflows, which is outdated, which we're not really going to cover today. There's really no, with Power Automate, which is the next piece with the DCP connector and Dataverse. You kind of shouldn't be using workflows going forward. You should be using Power Automate. It's a lot better, a lot quicker. And then the other last thing that we have that we offer is load balancing. We're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit more in detail. We've also done another webinar on load balancing as well. So feel free to go back and kind of check that out, where we talk about setting it up and what you can do with it. So first thing we want to talk about is batch document generation via the dialog, right? So most of the time, this is the use case for this is that they're basically the user initiates the document job via a view from smaller data sets. So for example, one of the things, our examples here is accounting wants to send out today's invoices or quotes, or sales is sending reports out to key accounts, right? The user is able to select what they want and then generate a document to send those out to each of the individual, say, accounts, or to the sending out these quotes, etc. Some of the batch options that we have are being able to select the current page or the current view. That's something that I'll show later in the demo. It'll make a little bit more sense as we go along. To edit the template, just basically just for the one particular run that we're doing, editing the template allows you just to make changes to the template without using the DocumentsCorePack template designer. Allows you to create a single document, and allows processing options. All processing options are supported, right? So if I want to create all these documents and then send them out via email, I totally can. And then the ability to download all created documents. So everything, say if I create 10 documents, I want to download them. Say I'm sending them out via email, but I also want to download them to my desktop and print them out, I can do so. One of the things that's really good to know here, and it's very important, is the dialog does have priority over flows to avoid user frustration. And basically what that means is, if you have a single service, which a lot of y'all do, if you're already using DocumentsCorePack, basically these documents get pushed to the top of the queue. So if I'm also running one of these big batches, and a user's using the dialog, their document jobs are going to take priority over what I have already run in the queue. For load balancing, it's a little different. It's a little better. There's one service that's reserved for single and batch requests, right? So you can generate a single document via the dialog. You can generate batch documents via the dialog, and it doesn't affect kind of what's going on in the background, and it's a little bit faster. Talking about batch generation via Power Automate and some of the things to know. Some of the use cases are basically it automates document jobs from a queue for very large data sets. That's where you want to start using this. Say, for example, monthly service reports or personalized information. So info on product updates, or I want to blast out a new terms and conditions to everyone. I can do that. Some of the best practices here is load balancing is highly recommended. And you'll see why here in the next slide. It also allows you to generate document jobs async and very, very quickly. And one of the other things that you want to know is you want to keep the number of requests low. So if you want to do something like, say, for example, you want to combine your document generation and post-processing, say attaching that to an email and sending it. You want to combine all those as much. So keep everything lean, keep your documents kind of small, etc. Some of the batch options that we do have in Flow is we have the ability to use the DocumentsCorePack connector. If you're familiar with Flow and you've used the connector before, you'll know it's very user-friendly. It has an intuitive setup. You're just basically clicking what you want to do. It's really, really straightforward. It allows generation, save to SharePoint and print all in one step. So it's pretty handy. You can also use the Dataverse connector, okay, by creating your own auto-merge working items. Supports most processing options in a single step, okay? So that would be like, say, for example, I want to create the document. I want to attach it to an email. I also want to attach it to a note. I also want to send the email. You can do that all in one step. So you can see it's very, very quick. And it's just faster, right? Because there's no delay due to the service protection API limit. We'll go over this here in a second. So the recommendation, though, that we have for you is for emailing documents of very high volumes, say, 10,000 plus records. The Dataverse connector is the better choice for smaller batches, say for 1,000 or so, whatever. Both options are okay. There's not a lot of difference in performance there, but we found that over 10,000 records, definitely use the Dataverse connector. It's just a lot quicker. Reason why is the performance, what is possible. Some of the key performance factors that you always want to take into consideration is how large is the document, right? You want to try to keep the document small. What we mean by that is, the minimal amount of fields, the minimal amount of inserting, pictures or like tables or things like that. The smaller the document is, the quicker that it's actually going to generate, right? If I have to pull a large data set to kind of put that into the document, while doing it as a single document, it doesn't take a lot of time. Usually, it won't take a lot of time, but you add that over multiple document or thousands of documents, it's going to take a little bit more time to generate that. If I kept my my template kind of lean. The last piece is how is the documents processed. Things of note, there are limitations here, right? So saving to SharePoint takes about 2 to 3 seconds that you have to add on. Attaching it to an email takes about half a second or so. All that kind of adds up over time as you kind of add post-processing steps to things. And how is the workload of the service, right? Do I want to use load balancing or not, right? Some of the performance limitations are basically your number of services. The basic load balancing set, which is 3 load balancing services, is close to the best performance, right? The next thing that we run into is the service protection API limit. So there's a maximum of 6,000 requests every 5 minutes that we can make. That kind of keeps things running really, really easy, really well in Dynamics. It's what Microsoft. It's a limitation of Microsoft. So we've done a couple of tests, and just for this information here, all of our tests are executed with basically just a common template, right? It's a one-page template, it has a logo, and had about 10 fields mapped from grabbing Dataverse elements and throwing that in there. File size of it was about 70K. So you can see here in our use cases, we have like a different setup. This is just basically with one service, with 3 load balancing services, and with 6 load balancing services. You can see just by generating 1,000 documents, just generating the documents with one service, it took about 31 minutes. Load balancing service, it took around 10 minutes, and 3 load balancing services, 10 minutes, and 6 load balancing services, it took 6 minutes. A couple of things of note here that you can see here, the issue here is running up to about 6 services. The number of services, the performance limits is based upon the number of services. If we go over 6, we found 6 is kind of the sweet spot, and we'd love to, for you guys to have, we'd love to say like you can have as many load balancing services as you want. But one of the things that we found, we did this test also, what's not shown here is with 6 load balancing services. And what we did was we ran into the service protection API limit issue, right? So we're doing a lot of work very, very quickly, but we're running into this service protection limit, API limit very, very quickly. What we found was doing 1,000 documents with 10 load balancing services, it took 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So it actually took it longer because of this service protection API limit. It kept stopping the process, and it basically adds time to to the process, right? So we were approaching around having to wait 9 seconds to actually get these documents generated. So 5 to 6 load balancing services seems to be the sweet spot, right? These are services that are actually processing batch documents. Okay. So what we're going to do today is kind of show just a couple little quick examples. We're going to generate a batch of documents via the dialog, how that looks, a couple of the features that you can actually use. And we're going to show you how to set up basically a high-performing document generation flow. And we're going to check the performance of our flow as we do this. Now, let me flip back over here to my Outlook here, and also here to my demo system. So here, basically, this is what I'm just going to kick this off. It's just basically a flow. It's going to generate a document to about 1,000 users, and then email them out to the users basically here. So I'm going to go ahead and save this and test it and go ahead and run it. And while this is running here, it's going to be generating all these documents in the background while I'm actually working inside of my dynamics here. Okay. So while this is kind of going on in the background and the flow's running, this would be what your user would see, right? So if they're working with this. So a couple of things that I want to do, what I want to show first. Let's say, for example, that I want to generate an email, just a Merry Christmas email to all these contacts, right? So here I go ahead and select this, and I'm only showing 250 of the actual contacts in this list of 4,161 users. Let's say if I wanted to send it to all, right? How do you select them all? Well, you don't basically have to, right? So if I use the create document button here, the first thing that it's going to ask me is it wants to know whether I want to just use the 250 entries that I have selected, or do I want to do all 4,161 entries in this view, right? So I can select that. So I can actually do big mass bulk generation jobs from the dialog. You can do that. Don't recommend it though. It's a little bit slower than, say, for example, a flow. This would be a good example of where I want to use a flow, right? So what can I do here, right? So I can go ahead and I can select, say, a few people that I want to actually like send these out to. So let's see here. Let me select one more, make it 5. So what I can do here is I can just select the records that I want. I can do then my DocumentsCorePack dialog comes up. I do have the availability to do one-click actions, different one-click actions, kind of set those up. But here I'm just going to decide every step. So I want to send out Christmas greetings to these people because, they're important customers of mine. So I do have this template that I created last year. And, I don't want to go in. I don't want to edit it. So I don't want to like change it around and create a whole new template. So I'll just use last year's template, and I'll just go ahead and edit that template, right? So it just gives me a second here. And I have a couple options here. I can edit it in Word and Word Online. I'll just edit it in Word Online here. See, I'll just change this to 2021. And let's see here. I want to add this to it as well. Oh, wait. There we go. Just add that little piece to it, right? Once it's then saved, it's saving. Just wait for it to save. It's saved. So I can close it now. I can hit next. And basically what it's doing now is it's going and it's grabbing that information. I'm going to do this as email content, give this a subject. 2021, right? And go ahead and just like, I want to attach these documents as email content, right? So one other thing too of note is when I'm creating all these batch documents, I have the ability here to also create a single document. Something like this is like, say we had like 10 invoices that we had to print out, and we're actually sending these physical printed copies to the users, right? I can select those 5 or 10 invoices that I need to print out, create a single document, and then just print them to my printer, right? And then they're all kind of ready to go. So that's one thing that's really, really nice. So you can create that single document. But here I'm doing this as email content. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the batch here. So as you can also see too, if you've kind of noticed, this is just merely kind of chugging along, sending out emails. This is the flow that's running in the background. If you notice this, kind of changing up here, sending out emails, just constantly creating those documents, sending those emails out while we're doing this in the background. And you can see here, there was no real performance issue on my end. So I'm generating 1,000 documents in the background here. I've just generated 5 documents here really, really easily. So I have a couple of options here, right? So I can preview this. So let's take a look here at one of these, what they look like here. It's the preview. It has my changes in here. I changed that to 2021. I also put the Merry Christmas in there. This is a nice thing, that edit template feature. It's only gonna be like just for this one document run, right? So this template's always gonna stay the same, but I can make little small changes to it each time. So I could actually use this for 2022, etc. You know, add whatever I want to it, and there you go. Have the ability to send all these emails with one click. And the other thing is, if I want to, say for example, I need a copy, I need to save a copy of these, I can just hit download all, and it downloads all these all these generated documents into one zip file. So I have them all. Okay, so if I have to do something with them, say print them off, or I just kind of want to hold on to them, etc., I can do that. So there we go. So that's what a couple of the features that you can do. So batch printing with DocumentsCorePack. One of the things I want to go ahead and take the time and let's kind of see how our flow's running here. It's finished. Our flow is actually finished, so it's created those 1,000 document jobs. Let's see here what we've got here as far as like email messages that are pending send. So we're waiting on, let's see, we got 342 emails that are in the queue that are waiting to be sent. But we also have these emails, they've already been created. I could open one up, take a look at it here real quick. So I've got the email, it's just kind of waiting. And here I've got my email. Let's see here. Yeah, my information in it. It's just waiting to be sent. Let's take a look and see how far along that the services are here. So let's have a look-see here at the auto merge working items that we've created. Okay, and take a look at, let's see, it was created on, let's see, we're looking for today. And then the status that I have, I want to see the inactive ones. I want to see the inactive ones, the ones that the service is still going to process. So let's see here. I'm going to check my, oops, I went too far. My status, I want to see the equals. Let's see the active ones. These are the ones that haven't been processed. Okay, so in that amount of time, you know, that we were kind of showing off the dialogue here, we have 134 documents that are still left to be generated by the services. You can see here as we go along, it does that really, really quickly. It kind of goes really quickly through those. So it's just kind of moving along, and it's going really quickly, and it's done, let's see, basically 900 documents, and roughly about, well, I don't know, when I started this, maybe like 7 minutes ago or 6 minutes ago. So 1,000 documents. And I was also able to use Dynamics just fine without it causing any issues. So let's see here. Kind of gone ahead and did that. So I want to show you guys kind of the setup here, what I have set up here. You can see here, let me just get this. So these are previous numbers, but you can see, let's take a look here at one of my load balancing services. And I just kind of want to show you the piece that we kind of run into, the issue that we kind of run into here. Let's see if that, no, we didn't hit the service piece there. Oh, it's just still processing. Let's see. Yeah, it's just processing right along here, right? So the only thing you can see, the service protection API limit that I've run into So basically it's telling me that I have to wait 1.8 seconds before I continue processing, right? So we're kind of like bumping. We found that, we're kind of bumping on that with 6 services that are running the batches. That's where we'll start bumping on that 6,000 requests, right? We start bumping into that. So yeah, so that's basically it. It's just basically rolling through here. I'm done. Let's see where we are here, how many we have left. Let's check. Oh yeah, well, so we're done. So we've done, in that amount of time that we started this and started our demonstration piece of it, we've gone through 1,000 documents. They're slowly sending it out. Naturally, there is some delay here with Exchange. Just to kind of show you here on my Outlook here, I'm up to 897 of the things sent, and I have 185 that are still in queue that are waiting to be sent. So yeah, so there are, again, some limitations, but for our piece, our things are done. The email's done. It's ready to go. The document's been created. It's been attached to the email. We're just waiting on Exchange to now process those and send them out. So that being said, let's kind of go over the flow real quick, just to kind of show you exactly what we did here. So basically this is just we're just doing a manually triggered flow here. But so you can set this up any way you want to as a scheduled flow. That's probably the one that I would recommend the most. But basically what we do here is we initialize. Oh wait, I want to actually show this here. We initialize an array of our documents. Basically what we want to do here is every single generated document, we want to store this in the array. It's not something that you have to do, but say you want to use these documents and push them somewhere else with another connector, right? You say you want to push them to, I don't know, OneDrive, right? You'll have to initialize this array to start off with, so that you can store all the values of the documents in those document locations to where we can actually grab that document and say push it to OneDrive. The next thing we're doing here is we're getting a single template, right? So we're just getting, this is the DocumentsCorePack connector. We're grabbing this Christmas greetings template here, and then we're grabbing all our contacts. And the way that we're grabbing the contacts here, we're just basically doing a fetch XML query to pull back the contacts that we want to send these to. You can do this. Not going to go over in too much detail. We have done a webinar again on this, on flow and basically how to use this. So suggest you go back and take a look at that. So the next step is this apply to each loop, right? So I'm going to apply these 3 steps 1,000 times. Basically just loop through, because I know that this pulls back 1,000 guys. It may be different for you how many times it loops through. One thing of note that I do want you to know is when you're creating this, take a look at the settings. This degree of parallelism, you want to crank that thing up all the way, right? So basically what this degree of parallelism does is how many of these will run in parallel. Maximum is 50, so that means basically each time this goes through the loop, I'm doing this 50 times at the same time, right? Most of the time, I'm not sure what it's set to by default, but because I just go in here and I just crank it up to 50. That's going to be the fastest way that's going to do that. And it's just going to create these things. It's going to create an email here, an email message. I do have to enter this information in. It's using the Dataverse connector. You do kind of need to be familiar with it. The from to example, and then also here you can set up just basically anything here. I believe there's a subject down here as well. You can set up a subject as well in there. Next, I'm adding a new row. This is where I'm adding the auto merge. I'm creating the actual auto merge working item, and I'm giving it the processing step of create document, right? So I'm giving it the name of it, etc., filling out a few pieces of information in here. I'm attaching it here to my email. I'm sending the email, right? So this email message that I've created above. So it kind of goes through. There's again, this primary record URL, you do have to have that in. If you're not familiar with this, again, we do have another webinar where we kind of go through this a lot in depth, and I'm just kind of skimming over this. And then give it my template. I reference my template that I've pulled, right? So I'm going to basically use this template over and over again on each one of these. Last thing I'm doing is appending that created document here to my array. So just in case, again, if I wanted to push to OneDrive, something like that with the OneDrive connector, I can do that and just call the information in this array, right? So then I'll push all that to OneDrive. But the main point here that we do want to show is using this creating these auto merge working items using the Dataverse connector. One thing that is nice about using the Dataverse connector over the DocumentsCorePack connector is that the Dataverse connector, you don't run into that issue with the service protection API, right? You can just fire all these in there. It goes in really, really quick. And then you're just kind of waiting for the services to kind of pick those up and do them. Okay. So that being said, I want to thank everybody for coming today.